Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary. We have yet another amazing guest, and we're going to be talking about the same thing that you're probably dealing with in your life and your business right now, trying to start an online business. And in this case, we're going to be talking to a former high school teacher this morning. Jill, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. And so tell us where you're calling in from.
So I'm from Southern Indiana. I'm right, pretty much right in the middle of the state if you go down, and right on the Ohio River that borders, Indiana-Kentucky line.
Okay. So are you used to being a guest on podcasts and marketing shows? And is this
not at all?
Is this normal for you?
No, totally out of my wheelhouse. 100% sweaty armpits, nervous. But I'm here.
I have sweaty armpits every day, all day. So you're preaching to the choir with that one. So are you still a high school teacher? When we say former high school teacher, tell us what you did before this and tell us, what led you to finding Legendary.
Okay. So I have been a high school science teacher for about 20 years. And this past school year or so, when August rolled around, we decided I was not going to go back to the classroom. It just is a different creature than it was whenever I went into it, 20 years ago. And we realized that it was kind of taking a toll on our family. I was putting so much time and energy into it. My family was getting the scraps of me. And it was just, the stress was too much. So I didn't go back to the classroom. And about this time last year, I had a friend who approached me, who was also a former teacher. And I had taught with her at a different school, and she started her own online craft business. And she came to me and she said, "Hey, how about you do virtual assistant work for me? Quit teaching and come be my virtual assistant." And she's like, "It'd be part-time, but it's something that could get you out of the classroom." And I said, "Sold." And so starting in June, once school was out, I started doing virtual assistant work, but that was only like 10, 15 hours a week is what I was kind of picked up in virtual assistant clients. And so I was looking for something else to bring in some income, and something that brought in passive income in particular, because I was kind of sick of trading time for money. And, I saw these side hustle videos, started researching them, and affiliate marketing hit my feed probably November or December. I'd never heard of it before. And I watched Kelly Roberts for a while, and
another teacher.
Another teacher. Saw her journey, and it resonated with me. And then I decided to dive into the 15-day challenge in early January, and here I am.
The rest is internet history, right?
That's right.
They can see the rest right out there on the internet, right?
Exactly.
Since then.
I do have lots of people who come up to me and say, "What are you doing now?" Because it's so out of the ordinary. No one in this area, in little small town Indiana, a clue about what affiliate marketing is.
Right.
When I started out, my Facebook, just like my normal Facebook feed, I had about 2,000 friends on Facebook. And once I started doing reels and posting about affiliate marketing, I've had one person contact me, a former student, that says, "Hey, I've done affiliate marketing. I've, made some money off of this." Everyone else is just, they have no idea. Yeah. Never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's people think that, this is brand new. This is not even mainstream,
No, not at all.
I think the world, and you can speak to this, the world is still coming to terms with the fact that their teaching jobs, their medical jobs, their construction jobs, and especially people in the medical field, in the school and education field, those are the hardest working people in society, and it's the most thankless jobs. And it's difficult. As you said, it took a toll on your family.
Yeah.
And
I got to the point that I gave so much of myself in the classroom. And I had great evaluations and everything as a teacher. I felt like I was a good teacher, but administration was always asking me to do more and more and more. And my own kids were the ones who didn't get me. And, they didn't have time with me. And that just is not what we want as a family. We want to pour into our kids and shape them so they're good human beings, when they leave the house.
Yeah, yeah, it's I think we're really going through a real revolution, but
Hmm.
it's not the type of revolution like we're used to with like musket guns and like, you know what I mean? Like people are preparing for those kind of revolutions, but
Yeah.
there's actually, I think, a revolution that's happening right in front of our eyes, and a lot of people are missing it. Thankfully, I think, and I heard Jeff Bezos say this in an interview. He said, I don't really have anxiety because when a situation comes up that needs attention, I typically try to act on it right away. Even if I just fire off the first email, make the first call, just take the first step of action
Hmm.
because I'm doing something about it. I don't really have anxiety about it. I have
Hmm.
anxiety when I sit and I know that something needs to be done and I don't do anything about it. Does that resonate with you?
100%. And our family's a religious family. And I can honestly say for several years now, I've been feeling the push that God has wanted me to move on from the classroom, but I was resisting because that was my safety, that was my security, and that's what I knew. And I caught myself praying like a week or so ago, and I was like, "Thank you, Lord, for pushing me to my breaking point last year." After I said it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I thank God for making my life horrible at that point." But if I hadn't got pushed to that breaking point, I wouldn't have looked for that opportunity that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's been that phrase over the years, and I think whether you're religious or not, you can understand this. Be careful what you pray for, right?
Yes.
Careful what you ask for, because the way it's provided for you may not
Mhm.
be the way that you want it to be provided for you. Therefore, we oftentimes miss the message or the opportunity.
100%. Yeah, a very wise woman that we used to go to church with said, never pray for patience because God will put you in situations where you need patience. She's like, never pray for that, especially with your kids.
Absolutely, absolutely, and
Yes. And on the other spin of things, since I have been out of the classroom, I've been able to see all of these blessings that I have been able to have, like the time freedom now to be able to love on my kids, when they're homesick from school, instead of it being like stressed out, I'm trying to get sub plans together, or you just need to suck it up and go, I can take care of them and they can, lay around and watch TV for the day, or I can take my kids to their orthodontist appointments or chiropractor or whatever they have. And I don't have to, ask family members to help or kind of get frowned on because I'm taking a day off work. That's just been amazing.
well, the I'll tell you what's been a real blessing for my wife and I is to have um to have a business that can generate enough income to be able to hire a nanny and
Hmm.
hire help. There's
Yeah.
a big difference between hired help and asked for help.
Oh, I'm sure.
Grandparents want to be grandparents as long as they're not being asked to be grandparents. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
that makes sense. That's fair, right? I mean, if you
Hmm.
think about it, if you're a grandparent, hey, I want this to be a kind of my thing, not
Hmm.
not a I'm needed all the time, because I still want to be able to enjoy my life. And I'll tell you, a great goal for all of us parents, and it was for my wife and I, was get to a point to where we can we don't have to rely on anybody. We
Hmm.
can actually find the perfect people to create the perfect situation that we want,
Hmm.
versus having to settle for, as you were talking about, either taking them to a school that I don't like or leaving them with friends and family members that I don't really want them to be around all the time either. Let's be honest. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And we were blessed with great daycare when our kids were younger. We have a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old now. So we've kind of transitioned out of the little kid phase, and now we're getting into the teen phase. And it's just a different season of life, but you still want that time with your kids and you want
Yeah.
that freedom to be there for them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's nothing like being able to go to your kids' extracurricular events,
Hmm.
go to it was so now my dad worked construction. My mom, growing up, I played a lot of baseball, and I will tell you that they made time for that. That was more important than anything.
Hmm.
but it's so nice, and it meant so much to me as a child. My childhood wasn't perfect, but for them to be able to show up to those events, there's nothing like. My wife grew up with her mom also being a New Jersey school teacher.
Oh,
So she was partly raised by her grandmother,
yeah.
who was at home, and they all lived together, and because her mom was always gone,
Yeah.
and it was hard. It was hard on everybody. And as you said, she's over here teaching and caring for all these other children, but her one only child was at home and hardly saw her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when it really hits home, is when you start seeing that your own kids are the ones missing out. And my 16-year-old daughter, after, I came out of the classroom at the beginning of the school year, this year where they're going to school and I'm staying home doing my online stuff, she made the comment, like, I wish this was the mom I would have had all those other years, because I'm not stressed out like I was. And it's so sad, but then it's also a blessing. Like, okay, moving forward,
Totally.
this is the mom that you get.
Totally. Yeah.
But it does make me sad that I missed out on all that time with them because of, I'm not going to say lack of opportunity, but it was that sense of, this is what I know. I spent all these years going to school for this. This is what I'm trained for. What else am I going to do besides teach? When in reality, teachers, especially teachers who have been through the pandemic, have a lot of skills that they don't realize they have that they could be using in online business.
Absolutely. And let's talk about this teaching thing that you're realizing now that is coming in pretty handy as you're learning something, doing something, and then teaching it. I mean, selling courses, coaching, and events, i.e. selling information products. That's our whole philosophy here at Legendary, especially having gone what we just went through with the pandemic and everything else, to where supply chains and physical products were really hit hard. A lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs were no longer able to ship their little fidget spinners and sunglasses and teddy bears from China and just drop ship them onto people's doorsteps. No, they were slowed down, sitting in boats off the Pacific Ocean, while those of us who were selling courses, coaching, and events, which could be instantly delivered, no shipping required, no manufacturing, no assembly required. Yay. You just pull up. If you've got a Wi-Fi connection, you can deliver it or sell it or market it. And if you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can actually access the product. That's the only thing that's required. And so now, are you finding the teaching skills, and not to mention all the skills that you have developed? I'm just talking about the teaching, the explaining, the skills that you developed as a teacher. Those are pretty useful in this, aren't they?
Absolutely. And to say one thing about digital products and teaching, I can't speak to other states, but at least in Indiana, they don't get us textbooks anymore. So teachers are often left with building their own curriculum. They have the standards, but they don't have any resources. And I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of dollars I've spent on a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, buying digital labs, digital lesson plans, or whatnot. So like, I was familiar with digital products, and I've had to do some digital courses over the course of teaching. So this wasn't new to me. And the fact that I taught virtually through a pandemic, and going into that pandemic, most teachers that I know didn't know how to do anything virtually. They didn't know how to set up a Google Classroom or to create these activities. So you get scrappy. You have to have grit, because there was no one to teach you, but you're expected to do it. So there's a lot of YouTubing and Googling, trying to figure out, how do I do this? And that has lended itself to this business too, because if you don't know how to do it, you figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so much of what I think in what we went through, and particularly you medical staff and as teachers and so forth, frontline workers, as we call them, essential workers. If you're deemed essential, then, especially if you're a teacher, they should have doubled your pay right then. But unfortunately, you have to create your own economy in this country, individually, and that's what you're doing, and I respect that. But these skills that you have developed are really useful, and they're really useful in entrepreneurship, as you were saying, coming up with things, being creative, just applying some basic critical thinking, some basic common sense also. I mean, these are all of the very bare necessities, which are also the most important things, in which each one of you already all have. Now, you may be a little rusty, little WD-40 up in there. Get that critical thinking wheel spinning again, right? As a teacher, what say you about the transition from employee to entrepreneur?
Yeah, so that is one thing that, you have to be self-motivated if you're going to not have a boss and you're going to be your own boss. You got to get out there and make sure that you're willing to do the work. And if you hit a roadblock, you got to figure it out. You can't just sit there and spin your wheel. And I think that that's one thing, like my teaching background, you could have the best lesson plan in the world, but something happens during the day and it's out the window. And I just caught myself saying,
10-year-old Dave Sharpe raises his hand in the back of the room and the whole damn plan just goes out the window.
The whole lesson's gone. And so I just said all the time, pivot, you do something else. Yeah. And as a science teacher for all of those years, I couldn't tell you how many labs, here's how it's supposed to work, and then it doesn't. And you just learn from your mistakes. You try to figure out, well, why did it not work? Do it again. And so I think with, starting an online business, whether it's the virtual assistant stuff that I do or the affiliate marketing, I'm not afraid to get out there and try something and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then you tweak it and you try again. And, that kind of comes, I think, from that science teacher background, and just knowing that sometimes the best lessons are when you screw up. Because if you've messed up in a science lab and you've done something, you sometimes will never make that mistake again. Just because of bodily injury, I've hurt myself, minor injuries. I've
cueing the Breaking Bad music right now.
That's nothing that extreme, but I've left my mark at some schools, some stained ceiling tiles from demonstrations and things, and you learn and you move forward, and that holds true with anything in life. Sure. You can't be afraid to put yourself out there. And I think, a lot of people are afraid to get on video and do a reel. Yeah. And I just look at it, I've made a fool of myself in front of a classroom of 120 kids every year, probably since I've been teaching. They think I'm an idiot up there in front of them every day. So it's like, well, what's the difference making a reel and people thinking I'm an idiot versus being in front of a classroom of high school kids who think I'm stupid. So.
Yeah. And ultimately that's, it's not really as you're alluding to when you're just trying things and saying, hey, ooh, that stung, I won't do that again, or I made that mistake. In the same respect, haven't you had a lot of experiences where you were like, you posted your first video and you were like waiting for all the cackles and the trolls to come out and just literally people to jump out from the bushes and knock on your door and be like, look at you, and nothing really happened? It was just actually okay, and then have you also had those experiences to the opposite effect where you thought it was going to be really bad, but it ended up not hurting as bad as you thought it was going to be, or being as painful?
Well, my worst critics have been my own teenagers because coming out of the high school setting, they would come home and they'd say, Mom, my friends are watching your videos during class, and they're like critiquing them. And so then they come home and say things to me, and they'd be like, oh, that one was so cringy, or this or that. Like,
oh my. And you're just like, I'm on it.
It's all good. Hey, you know what? If it's helping make money, if it's helping other people have the life that they want to live, who cares what somebody else thinks?
Well, in all these lessons that we teach our kids, they're never comfortable when we're teaching them. I mean, no child ever just pulls right up to the table and goes, okay, I'm ready for my daily life lesson today, Mom. You'll say something for 10 months to them, and then they'll hear a homeless person. They'll be walking down a random street and hear a homeless person say that. And then they'll run home and say, you won't believe what I learned today. And you'll say, I've been saying that for 10 months. But sometimes when you say it, it's like they don't hear it. But 100%. But it lands later, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. And that's what, as a parent, I know that I've had other parents come to me and say, will you go say this to them? Because if you're someone other than my parent, their parent saying it, or someone other than their coach saying it, they're going to listen to it more. And that's so true.
And I think words are important because I'm a big I'm a big verbal guy. I think the language that we use, how we communicate with people, especially our kids, is so important. Tone, energy, etc. But the most important thing is what they see us doing. And what I'm thinking about when I'm listening to your story is that they saw you away. They saw you. Even your daughter, I think it was, said, I wish I had this mom back then. But you know what? All that was good for them to see. See you away. See you make the transition. See you try something new.
Yep.
You don't think that our kids are going to need to try things new in the future, folks? You think that they're not going to. So a lot of times having them watch us be new, try something new, be courageous, be brave. I'll tell you, my dad had open heart surgery last week, and that he's recovering from that right now. And all positive thoughts, prayers, everything like that is welcome. Bring them on. Okay. We need them. But the decision for him to go through with that, to fight for 10 more years with us, just to have that done. He didn't have to say anything. I got to see him make the decision to have a really scary thing happen and to walk through that. And that is the delayed gratification that we have to accept as both parents, but also as entrepreneurs. There's a parallel with that as well. And how do you help people to understand that if they want to be entrepreneurs, they're not going to get paid at the end of the week for every hour that they put in? It's going to be a different form of payment. It might be a little bit for a period of time and then all of a sudden a lot, or it might steadily grow. But the bottom line is, as we were talking about earlier, it's probably not going to come exactly the way that you want it. And there's going to be some getting used to this new kind of way to get paid and to delay your gratification. What's that been like for you? And I guess we'll start there. What's that been like for you to transition, to adapt to the new way to get paid as an entrepreneur?
Well, my virtual assistant stuff that I do is still hourly. So I have that, as like backup. But anytime I talk to people about the affiliate marketing, I tell them it is commission based. So, you can expect you're probably going to start off slow, but you're going to do the work now, and that's going to reap you benefits in the future. So I think for me, really sitting down and setting goals for myself, like business goals, and saying, I'm going to do this income producing activity every day, and I'm going to make sure I get it done. And just realizing that with social media, you can post a video now and it may gain traction 2 weeks from now. When I go in and I check my stats every day and I see, what videos are getting views or getting likes and comments, they're videos that I posted weeks ago. So I think that you have to get out of that mindset that what you're doing right now is going to pay right now, or it's going to pay on Friday. Yeah. You just have to look at it long term and think, I am setting the foundation for something that's going to continue to grow in the future as long as I show up and do what I know I need to do.
So, what is your kind of daily day look like? Like, how do you now, what did it look like before, maybe for a little context and contrast, and what does it look like now? How do you plan and schedule and also set boundaries to ensure that you get your work done?
Yeah, so I always try to get my work done before the kids get home so that I can really focus on them. But typical day for me, we get up in the morning, I make the kids a breakfast, we send them off to school, and then I sit down, do some Bible study, and dig into my work right away. And working from home is fantastic because I can kind of tie in, household chores, start a load of laundry, sit down and do some of my, business stuff for the day. But I always start off, get in and look at each of the different social media accounts that I have. I'm checking and responding back to messages in my email system, and making sure that I get all that stuff done. And usually I get all that done in the morning. And if I haven't bulk created videos another day and I need to actually film some content that day, I usually try to do that in the afternoons. But yeah, just making sure that I set goals and get things done is the main thing. And I'm a list person. If I put it down on paper and I can mark it off, I'm much more likely to get it finished than if it's just something floating around in my head.
Okay. I gotcha. So lists are helpful to you. Now, is that an old school, old fashioned piece of paper and a pen list, or is that a secret special app that you use that helps you stay organized?
No, I'm old school. I like the pencil paper and the dopamine hit when you mark it off.
Me too. I mean, I've got, you know, I've got
Post-it notes everywhere.
I really do. I mean, they just tend to, I'm not saying that our as a company and we don't have different tools that we use to help us and different systems, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with just keeping things super old school and getting yourself a nice list. If you've got an Apple phone or something, you can always use the notes or the to-do list thing on there if you want to get fancy. But the truth is that keeping things as familiar and simple, because you are going to be working with some new tools, funnel builder, et cetera. So if you can keep things familiar to remind yourself, hey, this is not any different than the things I've been doing most of my life. It's just a new set of tools. What has it been like for you did you have a little bit of a head start with your tech experience from being a teacher? Or have you found yourself feeling like a newbie as you've been getting used to working with some of the software?
So it hasn't been a huge leap. I wouldn't say that I knew a lot about the software from my teaching background, but when I jumped into being a virtual assistant, I had to learn things as I went. With the clients that I have, I'm just opening up front with them. They ask me to do something and I'll say either, yeah, I know how to do it, or I'll tell them I don't know how to do it, but I will learn. So I taught myself how to do website maintenance, over the summer, because I do some web maintenance for some different clients and email campaigns, Etsy posting and Pinterest posting. I taught myself how to do all of those things, or I learned how to do those along the way. So once I got into the affiliate marketing, I kind of looked at some of the software systems. Like I use ClickFunnels, and I was like, hey, this is pretty much the same format for website maintenance that I had already picked up. Doing the virtual assistant work. So that hasn't been a huge leap for me. Now, all of the integrating and building the systems and connecting this to that, and that was super techy. And, if I hadn't had the videos to help me through that, I told my husband, I don't know that I would have ever had it finished, because I probably would have got frustrated and walked away. So the courses from Legendary 100% helped me get that set up, because otherwise I probably would have just spun my wheels for a long time.
Yeah. And as a teacher, what's that been like to learn in an unconventional way from an unconventional company? One that is, some universities might scoff at and say, that's not real education.
Yeah. I think that people need to shift their mindset when it comes to education. And, this is coming from a high school teacher. I have preached to my students for years. You may not need a college degree. A college degree may not be the best fit for you. And what we tell our own children is, unless you know what you want to do requires a college degree, that may not be the best route to take on a bunch of debt and spend all of those years. We want you, as our child, to gain the skills that you need to be able to provide for yourself and provide for your family. And I think a lot of people need to realize that it doesn't have to be a classroom setting like it used to. And I'm not saying college degrees aren't good. I took my daughter, my oldest, she wants to be a veterinarian. I drove her. It ended up being 9 hours round trip on Saturday to go to a university, to Purdue in Northern Indiana, to a veterinary open house, because, I want her to see that. But education is good. We need education and we need skills. But the value that you can get in an online digital course, to me, is like the ones that I took through Legendary, were more valuable than a classroom setting where you have wasted time and you can't go back and listen to things over again. If you miss something or you miss a class, you're just out of luck.
I know.
And that's where the digital courses are amazing.
I know. And it's difficult for me to hear as an entrepreneur and somebody who we're already teaching our students and clients how to use artificial intelligence, how to use these tools that are available to everybody. I mean, Bing just made their search engine. It's powered by ChatGPT now, and
really?
Google just released Bard, or at least the waiting list for Bard, which is going to be their new artificial intelligence chatbot. And you know, right now there's a tizzy all across the country about, you know, trying to figure out how to keep students from doing this, and what are we going to do now? And it's like, man, it's like, I think my biggest pet peeve is be in a room where people are the cutting edge stuff. They're figuring out how to utilize it. They're figuring out how to use it, how to be on it, how to be first, how to take advantage of a market while it's hot. Because the market, if the market is not hot, if it's not useful, it's not valuable, people wouldn't flock to it. I mean, the reason why we continue to buy these iPhones, or those of us who do over and over again, or at least have bought a couple over the years, is because it's a damn valuable device. You run your whole life off of it, right? So if something's valuable, there's not this big kind of, you know, this big freak out for nobody to, you know, people not to use cell phones in university. But now, because Chat GPT and these artificial intelligence things are doing kind of some of the thinking, it's like, oh my God, well, no, we got to adjust. We have to figure out how to use these tools, not to let them use us. And that's the same with social media. Using social media, not letting social. I think personally, I'd like your opinion on this. Social media, to me, I almost view it now. I mean, it's not that I don't get some enjoyment out of it. I get a little bit of enjoyment, but I've always looked at social media like you can either make money from it or just burn time on it. You know, and I wonder if you've recently had that epiphany now, to where maybe even in the past, social media wasn't a huge part of your life. I don't know. But now all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to make money with this dang thing since it's sitting here and it's free and everybody's on it and there's a clear path to be able to do so. How has your perspective shifted or changed about social media in general?
I think my perspective on social media has been a little bit different. Like I mentioned that I had a pretty sizable Facebook, you know, community or whatever, friends list
You were active.
going into this, and partially because I've had so many former students through the years that my rule has always been, I will not friend you on social media while you're in my classroom, but once you graduate high school, then it's fair game. You know, we can be friends on Facebook or I did not have TikTok. I didn't really use Instagram before getting into the marketing, but I am very selective about who I let in my friends list. And if it's not someone who's a good influence, because my kids could be looking over my shoulder and see what's in my feed, then I'm not going to have you around. But I wasn't someone who would sit and just scroll endlessly. I would keep up with, you know, family members that live in far away that I don't get to see their kids, or, you know, seeing how my former students are doing, you know, moving into the future. But it wasn't a huge time trap for me. And it wasn't like my feed was full of negativity. Some people talk about how, you know, social media is just completely negative, stay off of it 100%. I think you can pick and choose what's in your feed. And so that's part of it. But I absolutely, like, I don't sit and scroll. I am working when I'm on my phone. Now it's income producing activity, you know, and I will occasionally go through and, you know, interact with people on my original friends list. But as far as going out and just sitting and scrolling for hours on end and getting sucked into it, no, nobody has time for that.
Sorry, I know I was muted there.
Oh, there you go.
I just saw a comment, and thank you for all your comments. We really appreciate them, and no matter what it is, there's no comments that are not welcome here unless they're hateful or mean. But somebody said, "Did you make all your money back from the blueprints?"
Yes.
And it's such an interesting question, right? It's an interesting question, because you would never walk up to somebody in college and say, "Did you make all your money back from the $60,000 loan that you just took out?" You know, especially when they're in college for 4 years before you even have a shot. And in many cases, as my wife did, she got her master's degree in psychology. And then in order to be a licensed therapist, she was required to do a 2-year internship where you get no pay for 2 years. And so it's just, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting thing that we ask each other that question here. I wonder why that is, and why we don't ask people those kind of questions, why we feel like, is it because people are looking at this like, kind of like, well, if I put in $2,500, I'm going to get $2,500 back? What do you think the mindset is, and how can people maybe look at it in a more empowering way or a different way? What's coming up for you as I'm talking about this?
I think part of it goes back to society ingraining in us that if you're going to be successful, you have to go to a college. You have to get a 4-year degree. And I think I can preach from our family's experience. My husband has a 2-year technical degree, and he and I are relatively the same age. And I had a 4-year bachelor's degree before I decided to be a teacher. And then I went to school to be a teacher. And then I ended up getting a master's degree. And he makes more money than I did whenever I left teaching, and you were talking about, you get pushed to get a master's degree so you make more money. And then that money never comes. And, we know teacher salaries across the country have kind of just stagnated through the years. But 1 year, if you don't get a 500 raise or $1,000 raise like they told you were going to, that may not be a big deal. But when you calculate it out over the course of your career, it's like you just gypped me out of $100,000 by not giving me these little raises along the way. But I think when people hear, oh man, you dropped X amount of money on an online course, it's like you got scammed. I think it's just we're not used to the idea that you can get good quality education online.
Yeah.
And the reason that it can be affordable online compared to, that veterinary school that I took my daughter up to look at. I mean, she's going to drop $120,000 probably if she goes through vet school, but that's her passion right now. So, we will support her and, not pay for all of it. We will pay for some of it if we can.
I mean, in the medical field, I'm happy for you to go to an institution. I'm happy that you're not doing online courses to go and be a nurse or a doctor. Yeah. I'm totally cool with that. But I think that we should start being less skeptical of a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 course online and start being more skeptical of your local community college or even some of these big universities that will absolutely straight-faced and without hesitation charge you $100,000 for a 4 or 6 year business degree.
Oh yeah.
You should be skeptical of that. That's what we should be really skeptical of.
Well, and I think part of it goes back to as well with the pandemic. There were so many people doing things online that I think perspective is shifting a little bit, that you can get quality things online as far as, digital products and, digital courses. But I think people are starting to realize, like with Legendary, you create the course. Once it's made, once it's a digital product, it's there, and you can offer that to people over and over again. Whereas at a university, they're paying for the overhead, they're paying for the building, the professors, all the things, all of that takes a lot of money. Yeah. Whereas if it's something digital and online, it's just a more efficient use of the resources. And so they don't have to charge as much. And just because it doesn't cost as much as a 4-year degree from university doesn't mean the quality and the instruction is not there. And the support. I would say I've had great support through Legendary, whereas I've been through some college programs, college classes. I know I had an organic chemistry class in undergrad where the professor, I went to his office hours and he looked at me like I was an idiot, and he was not helpful at all. How much money I would hate to know we spent at that university for that 4-year degree. So I think it's just needs to be a mindset shift.
Well, I've been patient for over a decade, and I'll continue to be patient with people who are, skeptical. They don't understand yet. It's an adjustment. The way you're explaining it, I think is absolutely perfectly well said. And it goes back to our mindset. It goes back to the things that we've been listening to, that people have been telling us ever since we were a little kid. They've been priming us. Society has been priming us to be good little boys and girls, get good grades, go to, get our high school degree, our diploma, walk that. It's even ingrained into people. People want to stay alive to see their grandchildren graduate high school. Like, it's that much of a, and I know because I have a lot of older relatives, and as I just told you, my dad went through a serious surgery last week and he's recovering from it. And I've had these talks, and I'm an entrepreneur, but even, it's just that deeply ingrained that it's like, you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate high school, you go to college. You don't ask the price. You don't ask the price to college. Because quite frankly, in most cases, we're striving for scholarship, or we're striving for some sort of, academic scholarship, or maybe somebody else is paying for it. Or quite frankly, as a dad, it's one of your biggest priorities. As a young dad, you think, gotta save for college. Matter of fact, I did do it. I did, for my oldest at least. So that is so deeply ingrained. We have to respect that. The respect that that's deeply ingrained in us, and that is an example of a limiting belief that may be keeping us from believing that another path can be successful for us. And therefore we're like, yeah, those kind of questions come up. I mean, when somebody's asking those kind of questions, I know what mindset they're in. I know how much exposure they've had to this kind of, real entrepreneurship. And a lot of people who come from like MLM or different little home biz things, and I'm not saying those are not real. I'm just saying that, look, it's a different animal to run your business and to just do it on your own, regardless if your team is doing it, regardless if your company's having a rah event and everybody's getting excited. It's just, it's the grind, it's the hustle, and you got to love it. You got to fall in love with it. As you've been saying before, and there's also, you got to fall in love with the truth of life, which is that nothing's guaranteed and that everything is a surprise. Nobody knows how things are going to turn out. When I post a video, when I have a guest on, when I go live, I don't know how it's going to end up. Every single day when we post a video, everything that you see people doing out here on the internet, nobody has an exact predictor for what that video is going to do, or if people are going to react negatively to it. So every single person out here is taking a risk with every move that they make. And that's what this is all about. And so I think starting, like making the decision and saying, okay, I'm going to like put a couple of dollars down and at least get some education is kind of one thing. That's one milestone of overcoming those limiting beliefs. And the next thing is, and again, whether you want to invest in our education with the blueprints or pursue it somewhere else, it's either way. But if you decide, okay, I see I need these skills and I need to invest some time and money one way or the other to get these, that's the other big milestone decision. And once you make that decision, nothing can hold you back. But when you're in that limbo of, is this real? Like that kind of like being pulled back to that, all those traditional values that we've been taught our entire life about what it means to work. Even sayings like a honest day's work for an honest day's pay, it's misleading, because there's people sitting on Wall Street or in offices all around the world who hit a couple of buttons to do a couple of things or have significant passive income because they have subscription model going, and they're not working at all, but they're continuing to collect millions or billions of dollars in some cases. So,
I think some of the people who get paid the least are some of the people who work the hardest, which is sad. And go back to like your whole, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a degree, mindset in our culture. I think something that's really hard that I see with my former students that I have on Facebook is that a lot of them have went that route, and now they're getting out of college and they're getting the job that they went to school for. And then they realize, I can't afford to buy a house.
I know,
because of the housing market. And I think that is like a slap in the face when people work hard and they do exactly what they've been told to do all of those years, and they get out and they're like, I have all this debt and I can't live the life that I want to. Or if they try to, they just get further in debt, and then it just causes that despair, like that loss of hope. Like, this is what I was told to do and I did it and it's not working.
Millennials have less money right now than any previous generation, at least in the last few generations.
Yeah. And with teenagers in the house, I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, they're going to live with us forever. Which, that's fine. Our daughter, the one who wants to be a vet, she's going to move out. She's going to soar. Our 13-year-old, he already says, I'm going to live here forever. I'm going to get a job, but I'm going to work and I'm going to live here forever. And he wants our house when we get old and can't take care of it anymore. He's like, I want this. But it does make you question, like, are you going to have a lot of multi-generational homes just because of them not having the resources that traditional education or traditional culture is pushing them towards? And that's where I think people need to step back and think out of the box a little bit and look at the possibility with the internet. And that's coming from me being old school. I had a dial-up modem when I went to college, if that dates me. Had my first cell phone when I went to college. And now looking at, all of the different, Wi-Fi, internet, and all the different ways that you can make money online that people aren't even aware of, or they just are too skeptical to even research it. Just research it and look into it. Maybe it's not a scam.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's true. We really, it really takes a lot to change your mindset. It really does. And this is why we talk about, this is why I think people inside of Legendary, it's more of a leadership factory than it is, some online course or curriculum, because, we're really trying to help people to evolve not only their skills, but remember that there's a mindset piece of this. Your perspective, your attitude, your mindset, how you see yourself, continuing to build your self-esteem. Like, these things are, quite frankly, the stuff that we should have been learning early in school. And forget all the dadgum, forget all the algebra for a little while, forget all the trigonometry and all that shit. Let's just talk about, hey, if I want to be successful with something, I need to try, not cry. That's what I tell my 2-year-old. I say, son, if he's whining, try, not cry. Don't cry, son, try. It's like, because, and then you should see his face when he tries and he accomplishes it. He's like, wow, I can do it. It's like, yeah. And, that is the piece that a lot of us, even as adults, are missing, because in a lot of jobs, they don't want us to do things on our own. There's a system, and in a lot of businesses that's needed. At McDonald's, they don't need you to be creative. Just do what, right? We don't need you to come up with a new burger. We don't need you to come up with a new sauce. We've got a special sauce, ketchup. That's what we use here. Just get it on the hamburger and get it out the door. So it's getting these critical thinking and creative muscles are loose, and getting these entrepreneurial kind of mindset is something that, quite frankly, it sounds hard to do, but I promise you, you just go through this education and listen to this Wake Up Legendary show every day, and there's almost 700 episodes. And when you hear us talking like this for long enough, similar to the way that when you listen to a song long enough, you begin to learn the lyrics, this language, these beliefs, the way in which our guest and me, quite frankly, approach situations will begin to marinate within you as well. The same way that if, somebody walks up to you every day and says, you're dumb, you don't matter, eventually you believe that, right? But if you have somebody who is saying every day, I did it, look at me, you can do it too, keep believing, right? And here's the skills that I developed, and here's the path that I followed, and you hear story after story after story, you will begin to believe it. And so what comes up for you when I talk about guarding your eyes and guarding your ears from all of the noise, and particularly even distractions that may be disguised as opportunities? How do you keep the blinders on, is what I'm asking, Jill.
Well, I think, coming from a science background, I'm all about research. And my husband, he's very analytical too. We look into things before we jump into anything, and go for it. But just being educated and having that, grit that if you're going to do something, you're really going to do it. But I think really digging in and looking at the opportunity and the mindset that you were talking about, once you have a taste of time freedom, and once you have a taste of passive income, for me at least, there's no reverting back to that old mindset. Like, now that I've had 10 months here of working on my own schedule and developing these business systems, I'm not going back into a classroom. It's not gonna happen.
Hallelujah.
No, there is no way that I'm going back into a classroom. And even the thought of going back into
Although I
a
feel
9 to
bad for the kids, and isn't that something? It's such a difficult decision.
Oh, it was hard. Yeah. And I have seen somewhere on social media where someone said that quitting a teaching job is like leaving a
But
cult.
it wasn't that hard.
No. I see lots of my former students because I'm going back to the school for our kids' sporting events, and they're coming up and hugging me and, do you miss it? And I'm like, no, I miss you.
But I love you.
I miss you.
Sure.
I miss the students and I miss the teachers, but I don't miss the job. No. But once you have that taste of freedom, and once you realize that things don't have to be the way that you were always taught that they had to be, I cannot imagine people being like learning that new info and just like putting it in the back of their mind and going back to the old way. I just can't even imagine that. That is not for me. And now that my eyes have been opened, it's like I want to keep moving forward to be that example for my kids, and to help my husband and I build the life that we want. And we've been really good about managing our finances well through the years. We've been blessed with good education early on, but we're not in that position. We don't want to work until we're 62, or we don't want to work until we're 72. We want to have, the functional body to do things that we want when we're still young, and not wait until retirement when we just can't even get out and hike and travel and do those things.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is that a lot of people do this into their, it's almost like you can have a retirement style life even before your retirement age. I run when I'm not at the computer, you can in doing things that need to be done on the computer. Of course, I'm live right now on the computer, but I mean, a lot of it can be done mobily or on a laptop. There's no requirement for you to be in any specific location unless you choose to attend an event. Usually those events are, something that you're either hosting or going to learn or grow. And then as you get older, there's a lot of people that I know that continue to do this. And at a certain point, they just dial it back a little bit. The other thing is that there's so many different ways to leverage, for example, your content, emails that you've sent. And when you build a system, it actually produces passive results in the way that your videos get viewed by people. Just as you can imagine, people are watching probably your videos out on social media right now. There's people probably watching your bridge page video. How many people do you think right now are sitting on the sales page watching our 15-day challenge sales video right this moment? How many people do you think are starting the first day right? They're all watching those videos, but I'm not there, right? Yeah. And so when you want, and some of you may be thinking, well, that's cool for you, Dave. No, I'm saying this because you all have that opportunity too, right? All of the systems that we show you how to set up and the marketing that we teach you how to do is do it once and let it create results for you over and over and over and over again. The same way that if you build a course, you do it one time, you may need to improve but you don't have to redo the whole thing. This is a completely leveraged business, leveraged activities with lots of different, automation that's happening. And it allows you to live, me as a 39-year-old guy, a life that's much more free and much more flexible than even my retired friends and family, believe it or not, because many of them are still, as a matter of fact, I've got a good buddy. He's a lawyer and he's retired, but he's semi-retired. So he's still doing legal work. Well, guess what? That means he's got to be in town. He's got to be in town. And you don't have to be in town if you're doing affiliate marketing or selling courses, coaching, or events. And that's where the location freedom piece comes from. Time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom.
I think one of the things that I've had a lot of people ask about that I've had to clarify with them is, they'll say, well, how long do you spend each day on just the affiliate marketing? And, I'll tell them, I spend a couple hours a day. And they'll say, oh, well, I don't know if I have a couple hours a day. And I have to explain to them, it's not that you have to have 2 hours right all together as one time chunk that you're working. You could do a little bit here, a little bit there. And that again goes back to that mindset that, if you have an 8-hour job, you're going to be there from this start time to this stop time. But with, something like these online businesses, you have the flexibility to work a half hour here, go do something else, come back, work another half hour or whatever. It's just such a paradigm shift to think about that time freedom and location freedom, like you were talking about. And your lawyer friend, if he's got to go into town, he's got to get dressed for the day. I mean, I live in sweatshirts and T-shirts now.
That's one of my favorite things.
I had to dust off these teacher clothes for the interview.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I just pick a shirt up off the floor in the morning and just hope it's not too stinky. I even forgot I don't own a suit to my knowledge.
Your wife may tell you have one.
I probably do in the closet somewhere. Well, Jill, it's been a lot of fun. And another teacher. I'm sure I wonder how many teachers are listening right now. I wonder how many teachers are on the show listening right now. And there's probably many who are going to catch the replay. Teachers, if you are here, we see you, we appreciate you. And Jill understands your pain and,
I do.
and has a way out. And so you can go and check her out at the.digital.mompreneur. And please come back and see me again in the near future. Okay. Stay legendary, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
All right. See you later, Jill.
See ya.
All right, my friends. Again, you can find Jill on TikTok and Instagram at the.digital.mompreneur. All right, my friends. Have a fantastic Monday. We are cruising along. It's already April. Wow. April of 2023. Can you believe it? Lots of time to make this year the best year of your life. Go do it. Be legendary. See you back here tomorrow for another episode.